Hi, my name's Holly Sizer and I'm a specialist physiotherapist in neurology and rehabilitation. This is an exercise video designed to work on improving your balance and improving your confidence with your walking. It's designed for adults with mild balance problems, so people who are walking unaided or perhaps use a stick or a walking pole when they're walking outdoors. But if you need any more support or help or additional equipment, then these exercises aren't appropriate or safe for you to do. These are generalised balance exercises and advice, and so it's really important to remember that not all of them are going to be relevant for you. And also, if you have any particular exercises that have been given to you by your individual physiotherapist or a doctor, then please prioritise this over these exercises. Also, just from a safety point of view, don't do these exercises if you have any unstable or uncontrolled health conditions like angina or epilepsy or any other condition that you've been told not to exert yourself. If you're unsure, always check with your GP. Also, it might be that you've not been doing as much exercise as usual in these circumstances, so just take it gently the first time and build up. And if you feel very off balance, or if you feel dizzy or have any pain, or you're very short of breath, then do slow down and have a rest and sit down. So just thinking about starting, you need to make sure you've got enough room around you to keep you safe, no objects, including pets, on the floor, but do have a chair or a work surface nearby. So I've not put it in just so that it's easier for me to show you the exercises, but have a chair nearby and perhaps a wall or a surface behind you, or do the exercises in the kitchen where you've got a long surface to have nearby. The most important thing is to not hold on if you can. We want to challenge your balance. We don't want our hands to do all the work, but it is important to have an environment around you that makes you safe. Make sure you've got good shoes or that you're doing it in bare feet. Have some water nearby. And the particular things that we're going to need for this programme is a chair that you can get, some tins of food, tins of beans. We can add in some lightweights if you want to, and also a long stick, so something like a long walking stick or a long broom handle or something like that. So just think a bit about balance. We know that as you get older, balance becomes more of an issue, and also some of the conditions I see, which are neurological or vestibular, which means your inner ear, can also cause problems with balance. And the reasons why we get problems with balance is, first of all, that our reaction times are slower. So if we lose balance, our muscles can't generate the movement quick enough to stop us from falling or from stepping or moving. And also our muscles become slightly weaker over time, and so actually the muscles can't generate enough force to stop us with that movement. The other thing is that some conditions as we get older can cause problems with sensation, particularly your feet. So we can't feel the floor, which helps us to know where we are in space and to adapt. And also we can get more stiffness as we get older, so particularly the feet and the toes, the ankles, but also the knees, the hips, and the trunk, the back. And what we need are these little tiny adjustments particularly in our feet, that help to keep our balance and keep those movements. So the problem is that all these things happen, and then we might lose our confidence. And once we've lost our confidence, perhaps we've had a few trips or suddenly lost balance a bit more, or even had a fall, we then tend to do a bit less, slow down, we're a bit more careful, which keeps us safe, but it's a bit of a vicious circle. It means that then you're not doing the things that perhaps you did before, or doing them in a bit of a modified way, and then that can mean that because we're not challenging our balance actually starts to reduce it further. The really good news is that there's lots of evidence to show that doing very specific exercises, working on balance reactions and strengthening muscles, can help to improve your balance, help to maintain your balance, and help to reduce risk of falls and things like that. So that's all good news. So the exercises that we're going to do in this video are all based on those evidence. The key thing to remember is that we want to challenge our balance, but we want it to be safe. And we're wanting to really push yourself to the limits, but again, making it safe all the way through. And so we're trying to do as much as you can, not holding on. Okay, so let's get started. We're just going to warm up first, then do the balance exercises, and then do a cool down and some stretches afterwards. So just gently, we're going to start with the head, just taking your neck down to your chest and up to the ceiling, not going back too far. And down. Good, and then looking over your right shoulder, back to the middle, and your left shoulder. So when we do feel a bit lacking in confidence with our balance, we tend to look down quite a lot and keep our heads quite fixed, looking for sort of uneven floors or obstacles. And that can in turn cause a bit more neck stiffness, which then makes our balance not as good. So it's really important to keep your neck nice and flexible. Good, and then take your ear down to your shoulder. Again, not going into any pain with any of these exercises, but you do want to feel a little bit of a gentle stretch as you go down. Good, and then some shoulder rolls, so taking your shoulders back. Backwards and then forwards. And then bringing in arms a bit more. And forwards. And then crossing your arms across your chest, and we're going to move our back and our trunk round and trying to keep our hips facing forward, so you're not moving your legs, you're keeping your hips and legs still and just feeling that stretch up through your spine, and all the time thinking about having a good posture, keeping nice and upright. And again, we can really stiffen up if we feel anxious about falling. So this is really important, and a lot of the exercises we do will add some rotation, getting the whole body moving. Good, and then marching on the spot. Good, get those arms starting to come in a bit more. We're going to do some high steps. So trying to get your knees up as high as you can. And this makes us have to stand on one leg for a bit longer. So again, have your hand nearby a surface if you need to. And this is really good for working that stability around the hips. The one that you're standing on, those hip muscles are having to work to stop us wobbling over. So you can do smaller steps if it's tricky and higher steps if it's okay. Good, and then hamstring curls, so taking your heel towards your bottom. And you can start adding in, if you want to, your arms as well. So just gently warming the whole body up. With the balance exercises, it's not quite the same as doing sort of cardiovascular exercise, but you might feel a little bit out of breath doing some of them, which is normal. But we'll be doing sort of more restful exercises in between. Good, and then some heel taps. Getting those feet a bit more mobile, a bit more flexible. You might feel just a gentle stretch at the back of the calf as you're doing it. And some toe taps. So when you get familiar with these exercises, if you want to do the video again, you can always put some of your own music on in the background. Right, heel taps again. And toe taps. Next we're going to just start taking our body, moving our body a bit more, taking it sort of out of our base of support. out of our centre of gravity. So you're going to do a step forward and back. So not so much of a lunge. I mean, lots of exercise programs you see people bending their knees quite a lot for really strengthening, whereas what we're trying to do is we're trying to just practice and exercise a lot of our normal steps that we might need for helping to keep our balance. There's no harm to take it into a lunge if you want to. Good. And then side steps, so you're stepping and back into the middle. Step out, back into the middle. Good, and then this time you're going to go forwards, but you're going to make it a little bit harder and take it back as well. So forwards and back. Just hovering over that surface if you need to, just the first few times you do it. And again, you need to feel those muscles stopping you and changing directions. This is important in helping us to maintain our balance, getting these muscles good at reacting and changing direction. Good, and then the other leg, so forwards and back. Good, and then we're going to think about doing some swaying now. So standing with your feet still this time, and you're going to take your weight forwards and back just a little bit. Again, have particularly going backwards, it's a bit more challenging, so have your hand nearby ready to hold on if you need to. I'll stand on the side and I'm going to exaggerate the movement so you can see what I'm doing, but you don't need to move this far. And really feel and be conscious of what your toes are doing. So your toes are really working, and your heel muscles and your ankle muscles are working hard to stop you and to pull you forwards. Went too far that time. Talking, head turning and doing the exercise. Tricky. Good. Now we don't normally sway like this, and so what we're going to do is add in a bit of a reach. And we're going to go around in a circle, so thinking about you being inside the middle of a clock, and you're going to reach forwards to 12 o'clock, to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, other hand, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, to 11 o'clock and back to 12 o'clock. So it's just a bit more normal. So we just go forwards and back now. So 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. A bit more normal to be reaching and transferring your weight. And even more normal is we don't tend to keep our feet still, we tend to step to get close to something. So imagine reaching for an object or something that you need to pick up or to get someone's attention, you tend to step as well. So we're going to do the same thing around the clock, but stepping and reaching. So 12 o'clock and come back, 1 o'clock and back, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, step back and reach, 6 o'clock, swap legs, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock. And you can mix that up so you can do lots of different positions and diagonals to make it more challenging in your own time. Just march on the spot again. Right, just marching now and see if you can start to move your head slightly side to side. So quite often people can walk fairly well, but as soon as they're crossing the road, turning their head becomes a problem when they're looking side to side for cars. If it's very tricky and you lose your balance as soon as you move your head, just do a very small movement. But ideally, take your head right round to the sides. Good. I'm just going to get a chair in just to show you, making sure that you've got something near you. Good. So we're going to do some turning now. So we're just going to do a 180-degree turn. So turning to look behind you, turning round and then turning back again. And the chair's there just for safety again. So we'll just go one way to begin with. Now keep practicing that while I'm talking. So doing a turn of 180 degrees, ideally you'll do it in 4 steps. So just have a think and a count of how many steps it's taking you. And if you're not quite there, then remember how many you've done it with, and you can practice it, and hopefully you'll find that with improving balance, you'll find you can step round more easily. Obviously, if you're less confident to step, you'll take smaller steps. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. So you should be able to do that or in less. Okay, and going around the other way. I've forgotten which angle, and then we'll add in to 360 degrees if you're happy. So it's just a bit more tricky because we're going away from the chair for a bit longer, but you should be fine doing this and turning around. And you might find if you're feeling a bit dizzy, just have a little bit of a break in between before turning round again. Good. Good, well done. Right, we're going to do some strengthening work now, so you'll need your chair for this. So get somebody to help you move it if you're a bit unsteady doing it. And we're going to do some sit to stands, so sitting fairly near the edge and not using your hands if you can. So this is a really good exercise, working your quads muscle, your glutes muscle, hamstring muscle and feet muscles to help with your stability. And it's something that we do all day, every day. And interestingly though, when they looked at why people actually had falls and what sort of situations they were in, the highest amount of people were when they were either sitting down or particularly when they first stood up and got lost their balance, almost coming up too quickly and keep on going. So it's a really good exercise for balance as well. I'm going to make it a bit more tricky, if you find that okay, is actually having your feet closer together. So a smaller base to stand up. And then it's more challenging once you're up. If you can't do this without using your hands, then by all means have your hands there or just float them nearby so that you know that you can hold on if needs be. Well done. Now often when we're standing up to go somewhere, we tend to put our legs in the direction we're going. So we're going to do that now. So you're going to have one foot in front of the other and you're going to stand up. And this again makes it a bit more tricky with balance. I'm cheating, I keep on putting my hands on my thighs. Try and have your hands away or hands together if that's easier. Your Johnny Wilkinson pose for kicking at goal. Good, and swap over legs, so pop the other one in front now. And again, you can make this even harder by putting your feet in tandem, so one foot exactly in front of the other as if you're tightrope walking. So just be a little bit more careful doing this the first time to make sure you're okay. And you need to generate a lot more muscle force, particularly on that back leg. It's the back leg that's doing most of the work. It's just a good way of really strengthening the muscles even more and testing your balance. And again, if you feel wobbly, you can always have a chair or a surface by the side of you as well. Good, and switch legs. So repetition is really important. We want to be doing enough of the same exercise to get the muscles strong, to get them fired up and also for our bodies and our brains to learn how to balance and how to move better. Good. Couple more. Good. And then you're going to gently take your chair around. So like I said, you can pause the video and get someone to help if needs be. And we're going to do some slightly more controlled poses now for balance. So some balance exercises that you would sort of think about a bit more when talking about balance. So we did the feet together when we stood up. And sometimes balancing and moving is actually easier than keeping still. So literally just standing as still as you can with your feet close together. So you'll find that if you're really feeling not very confident about your balance, people tend to stand with their legs quite wide apart, and they're not having to then react quite as much. They're a bit more stable. So with exercises, or if you're conscious that you do that, and then gradually start to try and bring them back in. So if that's quite easy, you can have a go again. Have your hand nearby if you need to be, and have a go at closing your eyes at the same time. And it's very normal to move slightly. No one can be completely still. Our bodies are constantly reacting. So keep your eyes closed and just see if you can hold that position, and you'll feel your feet have to move a little bit more. Good. Well done. Right, the next sort of exercise up is again the tandem. So you can use the chair or surface to help you get into that position. So one foot in front of the other, and then letting go. If you're not very confident, keep your hand nearby the surface, or if you're quite happy, you can have your hand relaxed down by your body. I keep on finding a point at the bottom but to get my balance, but you can have a point high up as well, or just try and keep moving your head and eyes around. Good. Now if that's too tricky, some other ways you can do it is just overlapping the feet. So you've got one foot in front of the other but with a slight overlap, which makes it a bit more manageable, or just taking the foot so that they're one foot's in front of the other but just slightly to the side, so that's in that position. Hopefully you can see that. So either that's the easier position, that's slightly harder, and then the more challenging one is one foot in front of the other. And then swap over. So it's very common to have one side that's better at balancing than the other, particularly if you've had an injury or an operation on one side. So again, I'm doing the more challenging exercise with one foot in front of the other, but you can also have them overlapping in different ways. And if that's fairly easy for you, rather than closing your eyes, this time we're going to have a go at taking our head side to side again. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm wobbling a lot more doing this, so it's quite a hard exercise to do. So again, have your hand nearby something if you need to. We use our eyes. We use our eyes to stabilise without really realising, to get us to know where we are in space, about what's vertical and upright. So when we're moving our head and eyes whilst doing something a bit tricky, we haven't got that feedback coming in quite as well. Good. Right, now just give your legs a bit of a shake, because you'll find that your legs and your muscles have all been working to keep balance, and then go back to that marching. And if you want to, you can do your marching with your head turns, just to put it all together. Good. Right, the next strengthening exercises we're going to do are toe raises, so coming up onto your tiptoes and back down. And this is a good balance exercise, but it's quite a challenging balance exercise, and I want it to really prioritise the strengthening. So if you can do the exercise coming up onto your tiptoes without holding on, that's good. But if you can't, if you find you're only coming up a little bit, then hold on in order for you to get that full movement. So you want your feet to come up as high as they can. Like that. And if you are holding on, perhaps just 2 fingertips or just 1 fingertip. So you're not really leaning down, you've just got a little bit of light touch just to remind your body where you are and help you feel safe. Good. And in my class we had weights just to make it a little bit harder, so you literally can hold the weights in your hand as you're coming up and down. So these are just 1 kilogram weights or baked bean tins, and only do this if you feel very confident about your balance. Up and down. You can add in extra arm movements as well, but we'll just keep it simple. Good, I'm going to put these down. We're going to do heel toe now. So it's much more challenging going back, like we did when we found when we were doing the swaying. So you're going to come up onto your tiptoes and then rock back and pull your toes, trying to keep your body as upright as you can. Try not to stick your bottom out too much. And then, again, just hover your hands there if you need to. So when they've looked at what muscles are particularly affected as we get older, they found that the calf muscle is the first muscle that starts to show signs that it's getting weaker. And actually the calf muscle is one of the most important muscles that helps our balance. So if ever we're falling forward, that's the main muscle that helps to push into the floor. It's normally a very strong muscle, but it starts to reduce by quite a significant amount. So doing these toe raises is a really important exercise that almost all adults should do as part of their programme, just to try and keep as strong as they can to help their balance. So you can do the toes or the heels together. Have a drink of water if you need to. Good, so we're just going to do some reaching like we did before, but with 2 hands this time. So I'm just reaching, again you can do it over a surface as far as I can, taking it right to the, just to the end point that you're stable, not going too far. And again, this is working your calf muscle. Good, and then we're going to go into squats. So again, working like sit stand, working your quads and your glute muscle particularly, and reaching down and coming up. So you bend your knees, try and keep upright with your body, the top part of your body, bending your knees and coming up. And your knees need to be going over your feet, like that. Again, if you tend to have your legs quite wide apart, try and bring them a little bit closer. So, thinking about that upright posture through your body. And then we're going to reach at the same time. So you're going to reach down and then reach up. Do that a bit slow then. Reach down, reach up. Reach down, reach up. So as if we're picking something off the floor and putting it on a high shelf. Obviously going lower down if you feel you can. Stretching up onto your tiptoes if you want to make it realistic about lifting something up to a greater height. and then just march. Get those arms moving. So in the balance class that I do, we do lots of step ups as well and step overs, but it's a bit too tricky to do in a video, so it's just something you can practice in your own time. So just literally stepping up and stepping down, but not holding on. So quite often if your balance isn't quite so good or you're not quite as confident, you tend to always rely on a banister, and then you often come up against sort of steps in shops or at friends' houses. They perhaps haven't got anything to hold on to, so it's good to know you can do it, and it's a really nice way of challenging your balance. So literally stepping up, stepping down, and that step. I run a balance class weekly, and we do it as circuits, and one of the circuits is an obstacle course, which is going up and down ramps, stepping over things, going around things, stepping up and down onto the floor, going over mats with objects underneath to make it uneven and unstable. But that's again a bit tricky now, so what we're going to do is just do some components of the obstacle course. So this is when you need your long stick or brush or pole of some description. We're literally just going to step over. So step over and step back, and do that with alternate legs. So when we walk normally, you don't actually have to lift your feet up too high to clear the ground. Our walking is very efficient, our bodies are very clever, and so this just makes us have to just lift our feet up a little bit more. So again, if we're going on uneven ground or pavements that have got lots of edges and steps, we automatically will lift our feet up a bit more, and it just means that we need to use our hip muscles a bit more force. So it just tests our balance a little bit more. And also you're on one leg by itself for longer. And if you find this quite easy, you can obviously think of things that you've got around the house that make you have to lift up that little bit more. Or you can just exaggerate it like I'm doing. Well done. Right, we're going to pick that up. Again, if you're not safe picking things up from the floor, hold on to your chair, bend your knees, that's it, and come up again. And this time we're going to go for our 2 tins of beans or 2 bottles of water, and these are working to be obstacles. Okay, so we're going to go just round 1 to begin with, just to get used to turning but being still near our chair or our support. So just literally turning round and back, and then back the other way. So just round the 1 cone or can. Okay. Good. And if you're quite happy with this, we're going to do a figure of 8 around the two objects or obstacles now. So just going round. Good, and back the other way, I think. Can't remember which way I set off. That way. So generally when we're walking, if you keep going, I'll keep talking. Generally when we're walking, we're not just thinking about walking, we're often thinking about perhaps what we need in a shop that we're walking to, who we need to speak to, what jobs we need to do when we get home, thinking about our roles of jobs at some jobs at work that we need to get done, what presents or cards we need to buy. So our mind's always going, and often when we're walking as well, we walk for social reasons, so you might be walking with somebody. and then you're turning your head and you're thinking about things at the same time as walking. So it's very unusual just to walk. So what we're going to do now is going to think of a cognitive task, so get you to think about something while doing your figure of 8. Make sure you're not dizzy, have a bit of a break if you need to, all that turning. So we could think of something like going from A to Z with animals, or A to Z with girls' names or countries. You can do maths tasks, so going up in 3s up to 100 or counting back, that sort of thing. So something where you're having to think a bit more. And you can either do it out in your head, do it in your head or say it out loud. So if we're doing A to Z of animals, think of aardvark, bat, cow, dog, I'm not very adventurous with my thoughts, elephant, fox, make sure you turn sometimes, giraffe, H, I'm stuck on H, some sort of hound, a hog. So have a think about something where you're having to think a bit more, and sometimes you'll find that actually you stop moving while you're thinking about something, and that's because your body can't almost balance and be thinking about something as well. So that just makes your balance exercises a bit harder. Right, put those to the side. We're just going to march on the spot now and just start to cool down. So we've done our main balance exercises, well done. Hopefully you're all upright. Good, and then some side stepping. And the balance class that I do, people find that by the end of the class they feel that their balance has just improved, and they say that they walk back to the bus stop a bit better because we've just activated all those muscles that we need for balancing. We've really pushed those muscles and tried to demand those reactions to keep us balancing. So it can be quite a quick effect, but we need to be doing it regularly. Good, and then we're going to do some heel taps. So all the evidence says sort of 3 or 4 times a week, doing either a class or doing an individual programme, working on specific exercises for balance. And it needs to be an ongoing thing, so it's something that we need to keep doing, keep making it part of our regular routine, as well as our walking or our cycling or exercise. So we're doing toe taps now. And heel taps in front of you. And toe taps. Good, march on the spot, rolling those shoulders and arms. Backwards first of all, and then forwards. Just starting to bring you marching down a little bit. Good, and then arms across your chest, and we're going to do some twists. So just allowing our body to move. We'll just do some with just the upper body, really stretching. So keeping your hips completely still, just taking your top half around. And then we're going to do the whole body, but just make sure your knees are nice and soft, so you're not twisting on a straight locked out knee. So just twisting right behind you, looking round, taking your head round as well. That's it. Good, and then a side stretch now. So feet a bit further apart, and then you're going to reach down one leg to feel the stretch on this side of your body, and then the other way. So if we're not feeling as confident with our balance, people tend to keep ourselves very stiff, and sort of hold yourself quite stiffly. And so it's really good to keep this movement. Keep as flexible as you can. Good. And then just stretching your arms. You can march at the same time or just do your arm stretches. So we're taking our arms forwards, reaching and stretching as far as you can. And you'll feel the stretch at the back of your shoulders and your upper back. You can turn your hands to stretch those fingers as well. Turning your hands away. And then hands behind your back. Bring your shoulders back to stretch your upper chest. So bringing your hands behind your back, shoulders back. If that's a bit too tricky, you can just take your arms behind you as much as you can. This is a really nice stretch to help our upright posture as well. Good. Give those arms a bit of a shake. We're going to do our stretches. So stretching the calf. So you can have one leg out in front. Do hold on for these because you'll get a better stretch when you feel stable, and it just keeps you safe. So you're going to have your front leg bent, back leg straight, both feet pointing forwards and both feet flat on the floor the whole way through. And then you're just leaning forward, lunging forward to feel the stretch on that back calf. And again, I think this is one of the most important stretches when you're an older adult, and also when you've got balance problems, because we tend to take smaller steps and not always lift our feet up. And if your ankles get stiff, then it's much harder to clear your feet. So this is a really important exercise. Swap legs. So the other leg out in front, bend that front leg, straighten the back leg, keep your body upright and lean forward. If you can't feel the stretch, you can take your foot further back, and if it's too much of a stretch, you can bring it forward. And you shouldn't feel pain, just a fairly strong stretch. Okay, we're going to stretch our quads muscles now, so your front thigh muscle. Ideally, we'll be stretching it by trying to take your heel right to your bottom, keeping your knee pointing down, but that can be quite hard with balance. So if you find that you can't get to your foot or that you're too wobbly, then you can just literally bring your knee to 90 degrees, really try and push your hips forwards and keep your body upright, and you'll still feel that stretch in the quads muscle. If you sort of grab your foot and bend your leg like this, you're not stretching the quads. The quads just got to be straight here and your knee down. And again, hold that for about 20 to 30 seconds. Okay, and swap legs. Just going to turn again to show you. So heel to your bottom if you can, body upright, and really push that hip forwards to feel the stretch all the way up the thigh, right up to the top where it starts. And again, if that's a bit too tricky, just doing it to 90 degrees, but making sure that knee's really pushed back as far as it can be. You can sometimes get cramped doing this stretch, particularly if you're holding it. So the next stretch we're doing for hamstrings is normally the muscle that we need to stretch out as you've got cramp in that muscle. So this is hamstring stretch. So again, keeping upright with your body, taking one leg in front of you, and then you're going to bend the back leg and sit back, sit down onto that leg. So your front leg's straight, your back leg's bent, and you'll feel the stretch in the front leg that's straight in the back of that thigh muscle. So you're keeping your body upright, trying to stick your bottom out. Do it from the side. Like that. So body upright, bending, and that straight leg to feel the stretch. Good, and swap legs. Bend that back leg. sit down on that back leg where your hands are on the bent leg and that other leg out straight. And again, not into any pain, just into a nice strong stretch. And they're the good exercises, the stretches to do after any exercise. Give your legs a bit of a shake and your arms a bit of a shake. I'm just going to finish off with the neck movements. So chin down to your chest and up to the ceiling, just gently, not too far. And then look over your right shoulder, back to the middle, right shoulder again. Good, and then over to the left shoulder. Well done, and now we're going to do a side stretch for your neck, so taking your ear down to your shoulder. And back to the middle. And again. So ear down to your right shoulder. I'm feeling that stretch on that other side. Just be a bit careful if you have any neck problems. Don't go too far. Good. And then the other way. Good. Good. Well done. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. Hope it can be a resource for you while you're inside a bit more at the moment, and hopefully an ongoing tool that you can come back to. Like I said, you can take a few of the more challenging things that you found and do those particular exercises more regularly. Well done.